Welcome to Tish Talk with Tish Conlon. Let's talk health, healing, politics and geopolitics, history, spirituality, money, finance, world news, science, technology, conspiracies. Let's talk. Dish talk.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tish Talk. Today, I've got, some of you may know this guest, Nico Lagan, and he's originally from Montreal, has a huge following, over 200,000 followers. I'm really impressed with that. And we're gonna just talk all sorts of controversial topics today. He's host of Political Orphans, Unwoken, which I love, and The Conservative Corner. He's an independent reporter. He's a podcaster. He's a political commentator. He's a men's rights activist and conservative content strategist. Wow. So welcome, Nico. How are you doing today?
Awesome. I'm always good. You?
Yeah, no, I'm just killing it. Yeah. We're winning on so many fronts. So, I guess the first question, a lot of my audience would, maybe some know you, maybe some don't, but how did you get started on this, this podcasting journey of yours?
Because I refuse to take the vaccine. It's really how it started. I'm a sales engineer by trade. I had a very lucrative career until about 5 years ago 4 or 5 years ago, like I lose track, but they asked me to take a vaccine. I said they could shove it where the sun doesn't shine, and I eventually got the choice to either take it or leave, so I left. And that's how, I sat down and I started looking at what we call my transferable skills. I literally sat down, started writing what my talents were, and I'm like, there's not much difference between selling high-end services to customers than there is to sell your ideas to an audience. The principle's absolutely the same. So I started recording content, and I've been doing it ever since, and I've been lucky enough that I've been able to travel the whole US. I've recorded on some of the biggest platforms in the US. I've been all over Canada, 30 states in the US in an RV over the past 3.5 years. So it hasn't been easy, but it's been a very interesting life, that's for sure.
Wow. I mean, that is impressive. I mean, similar to you, I had my own consulting firm, staffing and talent solutions and leadership training. And when when COVID came and I knew it was worse than a fraud, it was evil, I started warning my clients that you shouldn't enforce these mandates. And that was not a good idea for my career, but it got me totally focused on the problems politically, and trying to make people aware in Canada. People are slow to wake up in Canada, but it's happening. And 5 years later, what a great adventure being part of the Freedom Convoy and all the amazing people that we've met. But one thing, I've traveled a little bit in the States, but I haven't traveled too much. I had kids just at that age where they're going to go into university and needed me. But that would be amazing to see how things are going in the U.S. How would you describe the difference between the U.S. and Canada in terms of our awareness of the level of corruption and pure evil out there?
I can't talk for the northern states. They're too much like Canada, so I had no interest, neither did my wife, in visiting them. But we did 30 states. Literally, if you look at Virginia, like whatever states we went through to get to Virginia, and then everything south of it, almost, we went through it. So a lot of our time was spent in places like Arizona, Texas, Alabama,
wow,
Nashville as in Tennessee, North Carolina. So there's a lot of places that we've been to, and the difference. I'm a Christian, so the massive difference that I see between Canada and the US is, and I'm talking about the South here, is their system, their belief system. a
Hmm.
lot of them are Christians and a lot of them are patriots. So their understanding of their country and where they fit within that country is extremely different from Canada. There's a very good reason in Canada we always say that we're very complacent, because
Yes,
we are. We're extremely complacent in Canada, and the US is very different. And the only reason that I can find where that complacency stems from is our war of independence. The US won theirs, we lost ours, and it seems that it kind of sent us on a completely different trajectory, because if you go down south and you speak to Americans, they're proud to be American. They know they're being taught their war of independence. They're being taught that it killed a lot of Americans, and we cannot take that for granted.
hmm,
Canada, we don't have that spirit at all. Ask a Canadian what it means to be Canadian nowadays, and a lot of them are going to tell you that we're not Americans. That's the definition of being a Canadian now,
yes.
not our morals, not our values, because people have forgotten. We're so diluted in Canada today. I'm just doing some preparation right now for my show tonight, because I'm reviewing what Sean Fraser said, that most of our, because the conservative, as much as I'm not a fan of the Conservative Party, I don't like any political party to be, I don't condone any, I don't embrace any. I think they're all part of the same bird. They just, we're screwed. It's a them versus us problem that we're facing, not a left versus right
I
problem.
agree. Yes.
But I was just looking at the amount, because, the conservatives are trying to take away the healthcare services from asylum claims that have been rejected. And yet the liberals are calling this like it's almost racist. I'm like, wow, that's racist? I
Hmm.
don't want healthcare services for anybody that's not Canadian.
I
I
know.
don't care that you're an asylum seeker. I don't care that you're a permanent resident. If you are not Canadian by citizenship, you're not touching our social services.
Well,
So I'm just,
yeah,
this is
it's
the difference between a lot of Canada and a lot of the US, right? You go
yes.
down south, me saying this down south is not racist at all. People are like, well, that's just common sense. Either way, they don't have the healthcare system that we have in Canada, but we've become an open border country with social services. So we're literally killing ourselves. And in
Exactly.
Canada, nobody sees a problem with that, it seems like. If you see a problem with that, you're racist. There's something wrong with you.
Well, yeah, you're so right. And I mean, Mark Carney recently said, basically, we're not a Christian country.
Hmm.
Trudeau had said we're post nationalism. I mean,
Yep.
there's, videos going around. What is Canada? We've
Hmm.
been a British vessel for so many years that we've
Yep.
forgotten who we are, and the level of immigration, mass unsustainable immigration in Canada. It's I think one of the top percentages globally. We got over 41 million now, and the level of growth, the rapidness, the unchecked nature, it's totally overwhelming essential services. And I'm happy for a change to see at least a provincial political leader, other than the PPC or external groups crying about it. But Danielle Smith is now going to have a referendum, because she's saying the truth that not only does it overwhelm services, but it's like you're saying, it dilutes our identity. So we're no longer, there's no longer
Hmm.
anything Canadian left, and that was obviously the intention, all the time, and it's been happening in all of the Western nations, but ours may be worse than some. And when you hear like Carney pledging another 2 billion to Ukraine, while
Yep.
level of poverty is increasing in our own country, and
Hmm.
people don't complain. I mean, not enough people are complaining. You have that strong American, fuck no, I got my guns. There's no way, that patriotic spirit that's missing here. Although there are some, but it's been, a very small fringe group here in Canada. What do you think it's going to take for Canadians to wake up? I mean, the Epstein files have dropped, and people are still arguing, even though we now, you seem to be able to say in polite, regular company that, yeah, these elites were worshiping Satan, torturing children, and eating babies, and it's like, and people are still arguing about left versus right. What's it going to take?
Unfortunately, and this is something that people don't like to hear, but I've had this conversation with people a lot smarter than I am, and we all seem to come up with the same conclusion that it's going to have to get worse before it gets better, because the average Canadian is not hurting enough yet. So it's going to have to get worse. If you're aware of the fourth turning theory, it's like the hard time creates strong men create good times create weak men create hard times, and then it goes on and on and on. We're at the tail end. We're there right now. We have a lot of weak men that have created hard times, but we're not at the end of the hard times. We're not there yet. Like normally, you're looking, as per history, you're looking at an 80 to 120 years cycle. And if you look, the last hard men that created good times in Canada, in North America, were after the Second World War. So you're looking in 1945 and after. That's why if you look at the boomers, they're still the same. The boomers are the ones still voting liberals because they think that Canada is still the Canada they grew up in. They don't realize that they grew up in the best version of Canada that ever existed. There was no war. There was nothing. The economy was booming. All those people were coming back from war. They were having babies, so there were a lot of population growth. They were able to afford a house, 2 cars, have a family on one salary. And you're not talking an engineer, a doctor, or somebody that owns a business. You're talking a regular job that today you're making less than the average salary of Canada, which is about $68,000 a year. So you start looking at the that type of demography, but how are you going to wake them up when most of them have a lot of money in the bank? They have a lot of money in equity in their house. They haven't been really touched, because if you look at the exit polls, those are not the people voting conservative. And the people that are voting liberal are not the 20-year-old, the 30-year-olds, or especially not the 30, 40s, and 50-year-old. Those are the one that still need to work, that understand that Canada that they lived is not the Canada my parents went through is not the Canada I've experienced. And I'm 43 years old. I have a 7-month-old. He's not going to live.
Yeah.
Thank you. But this little guy is going to be trained. He's going to be taught to understand that his life is going to suck. Like, I'm fully aware that his life is going to be hard, but you know what? I'm going to make sure that he understands that he's ready for what's coming. Because unfortunately, I will do the most heavy lifting that I can do until then, but they're the ones that's going to pay the price.
Well,
it's the next generation that are going to pay the real price of what's coming if we don't wake up. Because unfortunately, unlike where I think that the fourth turning theory is not applicable anymore, is because until now, there wasn't a global system that could actually eat up the whole world at once and be controlled by a very small amount of individuals. It is the first time, and I come from the telecom world, so I've sold some very high-end telecommunication services to the biggest entities in North America. So I understand what it takes in order to put that type of technology in place. And unfortunately, AI has made it possible for the very few to control the very many. So we're at a breaking point right now where if you watch a lot of my content, free speech is the number one thing. It's something that I literally speak about every single day. I speak about free speech. I speak about guns. I speak about religion. Those are about the 3 things that I speak the most about. And the average Canadian is still not aware of Bill C2, C8, C9, C12, C16, the new Bill C63 that's going to be retabled soon. They don't understand that there's a gun grab going on right now, but it's not a coincidence that you have censorship and surveillance bills being passed at the same time as they're going after your guns, because they're not aware of history. They don't understand that in Marxist ideology, this is what you need to do. You disconnect people from God, which is what they did in the 70s. They disconnected the people from God and they replaced God by government. Then what did they do? They started removing the men from the family.
Yes.
So that the women could be dependent on the new God that is the government. And now The third stage is always the same. If you look at history, it always happens. Guys are confused and they think they're women. This is nothing new what we're seeing today. That's why when they're saying, oh, trends have always been around. Yeah, they have. At the tail end of a society when it's crumbling. It is not a good sign that you have people that are confused about their sex, that they think that gender and sex are not the same thing. So the point I was trying to make is that we live in a time that our rights are being taken away. Like just yesterday, what happened about the Tumbler Ridge shootings, that's something I've been covering heavily because I understand what they do with this. You know, the old saying in politics, you never let a good crisis go to waste. They've been furthering their agenda, and I've been saying from the get-go, wait, they're going to start taking more guns away just like they did in 2020 after the Nova Scotia shooting. And what are they going to do? They're going to start blaming AI. I've called this last week or the week before. I'm like, look at them. They're going to go through, as soon as they said that OpenAI was aware of the shooter, I'm like, oh, there we go. I know where this is coming. But where this is going, they're going to start blaming AI for this, and they're going to require, they haven't said it yet, but OpenAI was in Canada yesterday meeting with Evan Solomon, our AI minister, and guess what's going to happen? They're going to start working on procedures where everything's going to be looked at, and anything that they don't like will be reported. And guess what? If Bill C9 passes, that means that anything more than disdain, that is considered the new definition of hate, is going to be reported in private conversations online. And people don't realize what this means, and they think that I'm smoking crack. Yet there's a woman by the name of Kinney that was looking at years in prison for calling the men that sexually abused her a slur word over a private text conversation with a friend.
It is so...
It's insane.
It is.
It's absolutely insane.
The level of insanity is through the roof. I mean, number one, in Canada, the U.S. is making progress on some of this horrific abuse of children and minors with this gender affirming care. Canada, this whole Bill C4 bill has caused so much problem. Parents who don't want their kids being caught up in this cult, these ideologies, this harmful practice, are being criminally charged and jailed. What we need to do, what we need to recognize is that these SSRIs are harmful, toxic, along with the other cocktail of drugs that confused kids are given. The worst thing you can do is put them on those drugs and start them down a irreversible path of harm, treatments that are at best suspect. And we see the documents, how profitable it is and how much suffering they're causing. Now, I'm personally pleased that some of these detransitioners are now getting success at the courts, and that will be a big deterrent. And some of the big organizations of the American Pediatric Society or associations come out against any sort of treatments for children or minors. This is a start, but we have a long ways to go, and Canadians are doing nothing. Zero again. Very sad.
You know, I think it's worse than what most people think, because to me, I see it as a spiritual war that we're fighting. And that's something I say all the time. We're in a spiritual war, and like it or not, you're part of it. Like it or not, you're involved.
Absolutely.
And this, to me, the SSRIs that we're seeing is just a symptom of what the real problem is. Like I was recording the other day, because I do a lot of live every day, and we get hundreds, if not thousands, of comments every time we record. And one of the things that I got a comment, because I was talking against communism and saying how communism has killed something along 100 million people in the 20th century. That's about the estimates if you look communism/Marxism. And they were saying, oh yeah, but there's a lot, he was saying that there's a lot more people that were killed by religion than, and I'm like, bro, just last century, there's more people that died from Marxist/communism ideologies. Yet I went even further, and I'm like, you know what, bro? There's estimations that over 1 billion fetuses unborn have been killed since 1920s. There's never been anything. I'm a very pro-life person, by the way.
Me too. Me too.
Extremely
Me
pro-life.
too. Me too.
And you know what? People don't talk about this, that there's been over 1 billion abortion worldwide since 1920s. It's estimated that the Generation Z is missing a third of its generation due to abortion. Those are numbers that people cannot even comprehend. But we live in a world where abortion is healthcare. This is how fucked we are as people, that we believe that the people that are the most at risk, the most vulnerable, are unborn children. It's okay to murder them because we don't want the responsibility that comes with having unprotected sex. It's absolutely insane. Insane.
It's evil. It's pure evil. It's a death cult, and we know it. And they're, you know, not only is the whole concept of reducing the population been engraved in the Georgia Stones, but these people, they love to harm the most precious innocent beings, and we as people, as adults, should be stepping up to protect them, and we're not. From childhood, from in the womb to when they're born, and they're being injected with all of these toxic heavy metals under the guise of healthcare, again with quaxines, from the incredible sexualization and grooming that they are being subjected to in schools, and this sick abuse of these ideologies, not just the gender ideology, but the critical race theory that's dividing them just because of their color of their skin. These are all like sicknesses that are further alienating them from their family along the political lines. If you're not a left-wing, climate activist, then and if your parents don't agree with you, then you should stop speaking to them. I mean, this is a simple playbook. As you said, it's been perpetrated throughout time, but with the internet and with all of the AI tools they can use, they can really get people's emotional buy-in. And we're witnessing the fruits of that right now in this spiritual war. And it's pretty ugly, that's for sure.
You know, you read your Bible, and they used to sacrifice children to Baal. They used to wait till they were born and then they'd throw it in fire, and people are horrified by this. I'm like, we've evolved, or devolved, should I say, to a point that we don't even need to wait till they're alive. We're gonna, let me rephrase that. We don't wait until they're born. We go get them inside the womb. This is how can you have a moral society with strong values if your most vulnerable are getting killed and murdered out of inconvenience? It's insane. It blows my mind. It absolutely pisses me off every time I think about this, because in Canada, unlike the US, you were asking about the differences between Canada and the US. In the South, there's a lot of places, like we spent a lot of our time in Alabama. You can't have an abortion in Alabama. It's illegal. You can't even have, you can't even use, what's the term? You can't even go to a law. Huh?
Birth control, or no? Yeah.
No, not birth control. If you want to have children, they don't do the in vitro, because people don't get that in order to do in vitro, you need to fertilize multiple eggs. Mm-hmm. And you take the most viable. So basically, to them, you're murdering, in essence, you're murdering you're murdering life. And I get it. I understand exactly where they're coming from, but this is one of the major conversations that is not possible to have in Canada. Our Conservative Party doesn't even talk about that. Well, even the PPC, that's not one of their talking points. They're not scared to talk about it, but it is not a talking point. If I ran for politics, that would be in my top 3 of things we need to stop murdering children. Are you kidding me?
Actually, just to correct you, with Max ran in a by-election, and that was his number one thing, abortion. And it's in Canada, it's like craze, but
It's
he brought it up again recently on this late term abortion. It's so
insane.
heinous and disgusting and sick. And how could anyone, I mean, the lack of awareness and education, but pure evil to do that to your own formed baby. So I know he took a stand on that as well and has expanded the rights. But we're dealing with late term abortion in Canada. We're dealing with MAID, unprecedented numbers, and people who are actually going through MAID. I don't know if you're aware of this, but someone told me, again, I don't know if it's true. Someone could fact check this. But the drug they use for MAID is like torture, because it's like a slow drowning in your lungs. So it's not humane in the least. And yet a lot of people are signing these forms where their organs are getting donated. Now the organs are then trafficked and sold. It's really slimy and
Yep.
sleazy and sick. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I mean, the tragedy of these recently two young men, bright futures in their 20s, being forced down this path by this death doctor. There's even death doulas now in Canada, and it just makes me cry, because Canada is a complete death cult. Big pharma is harming people. The shot's killing people. People still aren't waking up about how harmful the shot is and the numbers that are needed. The shot hasn't been withdrawn. We're killing babies. We're killing the elderly. Palliative care seems to be, passe. Let's just get MAID. A recent story of a man who couldn't bother to look after his wife, so
Yep.
he just signed her over for MAID. She didn't want to die. That's murder. It's very, very tragic.
It's going to get worse, because now the Liberals are looking to expand this to mature minors, as they like to call them. So kids, basically kids and teenagers, they want to eventually expand that. I think it's 2027, 2028. They want to expand MAID to mature minors. There's no such thing as a mature minor.
No.
You're either a minor or you're mature. That's the whole definition. You're either minor or you're mature. Can't be both at the same time. So you're looking at, they are right now, they're talking about expanding MAID to people with mental disabilities and mental health issues. So basically somebody that could be suicidal, that could be something that can be addressed, they can get access to MAID. And it's insane, because last time I checked, I haven't checked in a few months. I should check up the numbers again, because I got a feeling that they're probably worse now. But it took, on average, from beginning to end, the MAID process could be completed within 3 months. I've seen some stuff within 10 days, depending if you're in a hospital. I've seen stuff overnight. It's insane.
Yeah.
But the normal process, the numbers that you can find are going to be around 3 months. It takes at least twice that to get access to a psychologist that is provided by the state. It takes twice more time to get access to a psychologist or psychiatrist than it does to get MAID. And I'm using very conservative numbers here. It's a lot less than that. Yes. If you want to get access to MAID, because I was reading about cases that were done within 10 days from the beginning to end. Just this, we're Thursday. I think it was this week or end of last week.
It's horrific. I mean, we're looking at legislation that continually takes away freedom of speech, and you see people getting more and more siloed through social media and AI algorithms. So where it used to be you could have a conversation with someone about a topic and you could agree to disagree, now it's a deal breaker. You unfriend them, you don't speak to them anymore. Now this is really dangerous for society, because if you're not allowed to disagree cordially, you can't really have polite society anymore. And that's been orchestrated as well. And personally, I prefer to hang out with like-minded, but I'll talk to anyone. We don't have to be besties, but we can be polite. But that is very difficult. The siloing and the cancel culture, and it's occurring on both sides and within both sides as well. Your thoughts?
The so-called conservatives in Canada hate me as much, maybe more, than the Liberals. Because I don't see conservatisms in Canada. The fact that you call yourself a big C conservative does not mean anything.
Yeah.
You're literally a conservative. You're literally a liberal with a blue background. And they really don't like that. And some of the people, because I've recorded or I'm on speaking terms with most of the bigger content creators in Canada, and I call them out all the time. I'll make videos attacking them directly, calling their names and tagging them on there. And they will respond to me because of the audience that I have, right? They often get retagged and retagged and retagged and retagged, and they don't have a choice to eventually answer me. But they won't talk to me online. They won't, like, they will not record a show with me. They won't, only one did, Mark Nixon did it. And as much as him and I don't agree on a lot of things, I'll always give him respect to actually for showing up. But we are in a very sad state of affair when it's just everywhere you look. It's very hard for me to look at Canada right now and have a lot of hopes for the future, because no matter what, people are still believing in the left versus right narrative. They're always pushing that it's a left versus right problem. Yet you look at a guy we had, I don't know if you know who Mia Hughes is, but we had her on the show yesterday, and she's one of the most known intellect that speaks against the trans agenda. And she is a brilliant woman. And we were talking about how Bill C4, the bill that the Conservative Party fast-tracked
and voted on unanimously. Yes.
They didn't vote on it unanimously because they didn't have to. A conservative passed or proposed a fast track of the bill so that it would skip debate, it would skip parliament, and it would be automatically approved. So they didn't vote on Bill C4. They voted on a motion to fast track C4. And guess who was part of that in 2021? Pierre Poilievre. And guess what? He was in favor of that motion. So even our Conservative Party are okay with this whole SOGI trans agenda that was possible, that made it partially possible because of Bill C4. And now we look at Bill C16 that was tabled last December, where it's a gender-based protection bill that will protect children online. Like, it's so much bullshit. It makes no sense. But that word gender is plastered throughout that bill, and now genders can be whatever the hell you want.
Oh, I know. And the Conservatives, I think they need to shoulder a lot of the blame for what happened in Tumbler Ridge, and even at their AGM, because they're supposed to be the moral right that stands for family and faith, and they lost their way. And even at their AGM recently, what was it, a month ago, they voted to maintain all of their gender ideologies. So this is like, you think, oh, they've woken up over the years with all the things that are happening in the States, all of the evidence of harm, all the detransitioners speaking out, all of the women getting raped in prisons. Even here where I live in Durham, they spent, I don't know if it was millions, but hundreds of thousands on a gender neutral bathroom in one of their public offices. What a waste of money. And the security guard told me, I said, I'm not going in there. She said, yeah, a couple of women have been sexually assaulted already. I mean, it's insanity that this is happening. And there's not enough people and positions of, authority that are stopping it in Canada.
This is where a lot of the conversations between my co-host and I, because we call the show The Political Orphans, because he's an anti-woke liberal. He can't consider himself a political liberal because he doesn't believe that women can have penises. That's the thing that made him realize that there's something really wrong with the woke left. And I don't consider, and the conservative don't speak for me because I'm way more right than conservatives, like way more right than conservatives. So we call the show The Political Orphans, and we talk about whatever happens. Like, we're going to talk about asylum seekers and immigration today because that's what's in the news, right? And a lot of the things that we agree on is the trans agenda that we're seeing, being able to allowing people with mental illnesses, reaffirming mental illnesses instead of addressing them, is like going to somebody that has anorexia and asking them for a diet advices. Hey, what do you eat? Like, how can I get skinny? Or just telling them, you know what?
You
You're
look
probably
good.
not skinny enough. No, you're
Yeah.
not skinny enough. No, you're not skinny enough. But those are just symptoms of the problem that we're seeing. And in my humble opinion, it all started when we disconnected from God.
I
That's why it's
agree.
always the number one thing. You always need to remove God from the equation and replace it by anything else. It doesn't matter if it's the government, if it's money, if it's yourself. It doesn't matter. But as soon as we stop, we lose track. We lose track of our maker. We lose track of each other. Like we don't matter anymore. We become extremely selfish, and we experience decadence. That's always the same. It's all throughout history. It keeps on happening and happening and happening. But like I was saying earlier, I really think that we are in a very different time, because we have the technology today to enable this to be on a worldwide stage. It's always been segmented. This was happening in certain countries, but not in the whole world at the same time. This is the first time, at least in recorded history, that we can remember that we have a totalitarian government. Like you look at the WHO, you look at the WEF, for example, you look at the UN, they all ran by the same people. They all know each other, and they finally have the tool that is AI, that is the technology that they've been missing from the get-go in order to establish a new world order. We literally have a prime minister that said it multiple times in Davos, and people are, oh, brilliant.
I know.
Oh,
So
sure, a new world order for you. That sounds normal. They're not. They're so confident in what they're doing that they're not hiding it. They're showing it to you in your face, and people are not even seeing it. Unfortunately, you know what drives me nuts about all of this is I wish this is the type of stuff I could speak about every single day on my show, but unfortunately, people are not ready for this. I'm playing checkers when I should be playing 3D chess. But I'm playing checkers because I'm like, hey guys, look, that's not what conservatives should be doing. They should be doing that. Oh shit, maybe you have a point. Or you're just an idiot. You're liberal. If you don't endorse Pierre Poilievre, you're liberal. That's what people tell me. And I'm like, wow, that's a very interesting concept. But we have to be fighting such at a low level right now because people are so unaware of what's going on.
they are. I posted today that I forget his name, but the CEO of the World Economic Forum has quit.
Epstein.
Yeah,
Because of Epstein files.
Yeah, and you see, people are like, when you've been at this for what 6-7 years. I mean, I've been aware of how evil big pharma is for much longer, and how they've deliberately been poisoning the food system at least 15 years. I've written 2 books on different subjects. One of them was more about just food and drug toxicity. But once I woke up to the whole spiritual war, just how you can start to see how evil it is from the top everywhere. But when you see little glimmers of hope, some people are saying that now finally there will be accountability. Some of these Epstein files released. You don't think there's going to be any major arrests or accountability?
Epstein's a fall guy. That dude is not the man at the top. He was just one of others. You don't think that there's... You look at a guy like Puff Daddy. He's no different than Epstein. He just did it in a different... Epstein went after businessmen and politicians. Puff Daddy did it, or Puff Diddy. I'm old enough to remember when he was called Puff Daddy. Mm-hmm. He did it with the Hollywood scene. Mm-hmm. But it's all the same thing. There's no difference between a Epstein and a Puff Daddy, and that there's another, probably 100 others of them out there. They just haven't been caught. And when they're going to be caught, they're going to be thrown to the wolves, and then they're going to be, even if that's true, even if you believe that that's true, because I don't believe that those guys disappear. They disappear. They don't die. They just go somewhere else because they're protected. But those are just fall guys. This is something that's as old as the history. Just, again, read your Bible. That's something that's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. This is never going to end.
Nothing new under the sun.
No, it's nothing new under the sun. It is there's have you ever seen the movie? I'm a big movie buff. I absolutely love movie because they to me they predict the future. Like they kind of warn us if you pay attention. You look at Enemy of the States from almost 30 years ago, we see what's happening today and we're like way ahead of what that technology was there, but imagine what they can do. But there's a movie called Nefarious. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's
no,
very,
write it down.
Very, very simple movie, and it's the story of a psychiatrist that deals with prisoners. Like one of the jobs that he does is he goes to prisoners that are facing the death penalty and he gives an analysis of their state of mind. Are they crazy, meaning they can't face the death penalty, or are they sane of mind and they know what they did is wrong? So his job is to just assess which of the two it is. And it's very interesting. I did not expect that movie to turn that way. It's a very simple movie. There's not a lot of actors. It's mostly in a room in the prison. But the whole
watch it. Yeah.
Nefarious, the guy that he goes to see, is a demon. He possesses the body of the person that's there. But what's insane is that he says, man, we've been working on you humans for thousands of years and you continue to amaze us. A lot of the things that you do today, like killing your children, is not even something we thought of. You guys did it on your own. And what's interesting is that he just goes on and on about all of the things that demons have done to people. And then you listen to the guy and you're like, holy fuck, we're evil. Because he goes on and he talks about how, just what we were talking about how abortion is normal, how when you don't want to deal with your parents, you literally just dump them in a place where other people are going to take care of them. Eventually, they're just going to die. He just goes on and on about bragging, because he's a demon, so he brags about all the cool stuff that he has humans do. And then you're just like, we're so fucked. When you hear them all in a row, at one point he goes on a 5-minute speech of just all the things that we're doing that is them. They kind of not forced us, but they had us through, oh, you know what? Be your own God. Don't worry about God. Be your own God. Be selfish. We are so fucked. When you hear it, when it's me saying it, it's one thing, but when you just sitting there enjoying a movie and the guy just goes on and on. Great. Nefarious is such an underrated movie, but it reminds you.
Would you recommend to people who are maybe looking to go back now that they're awake and kind of catch up on some of the ways where they were pointing out what they were going to do?
I think the number one movie, and this is a movie I've referenced many, many times, is Money Masters. It's an old documentary from the 90s that explains how the money system works. It's, even my co-host, we went down that rabbit hole the other day, and he couldn't disagree with me more. In his head, governments still print money. Like the average individual believes that our government is responsible for printing our money, yet central banks don't belong to the government. They belong to international bankers that are not even named on the bills. Like the Federal Reserve in the US, they call them very government sounding names so that people think they're departments within the American country, for example, but they're not. The Federal Reserve, last time I checked, was owned by the government at 10%. 90% is owned by international bankers that are not named on the bills, meaning that you have a third party that is printing your money at interest. So you can never get out of debt. The system is made in such a way. Exactly. And if you don't understand how money works, if you don't understand how inflation works, if you don't understand fractional reserves, if you don't understand money, what do you understand? Everybody likes money. I don't care who you are. Everybody loves money and everybody wishes they had a bit more. Like, that is pretty standard across the humankind. So
Yeah.
this is, it's a 3-hour documentary, was made, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of the 90s. It is not an entertaining documentary. It is extremely, extremely information. Like, you listen to it and your mind's gonna be blown. And when you understand that those same people now have access to technology like AI, which can give them, like, for the people out there, if you don't know what Palantir is, Palantir, look into it. This is why I was laughing a bit earlier when you said, is the Epstein files going to change something? No. You know why? JD Vance, the vice president of the US, his biggest backer is Palantir.
Yeah, I know. Peter Thiel. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I wanted to just before we close the door on the whole Federal Reserve, I wanted to put out a book that, if people are just exploring this, is to read the Creature from Jekyll Island. Really goes into the whole, how they created the Federal Reserve, even brings in the Titanic, how they got rid of the people who were opposed to it. It's a good book, I think. And just as you're waking up to the fraud, with frauds perpetrated in humanity, fight through the banking system, through the so-called healthcare, which is the death cult, through history, even the lies around history. I mean, it's a lot to take in. I mean, it's incredible, the vastness of the lies and the fraud.
It's everywhere you look, especially if you're like me. I'm a jack of all trade, so I tend to step out from the very specific and kind of look at all the problems we're facing as a whole. I don't like to be siloed. I like to see the trees for the forest, and you start to see that it's all interconnected and it is all spiritual. Everything that we're seeing today is spiritual in nature. We are attacked left, right, and center. Our spirit is attacked. That is what they want. And unfortunately, I would say the vast majority of individuals are not really spiritual anymore. They can say they're Christians, they can say they're spiritual, but they're not really spiritual at all. And that's unfortunate, because that is where I find my strength. That's the only reason I do what I do, is because God wants me to. I don't want to be doing this. My life before was way simpler. I made a lot more money, and I didn't have to deal with all the idiocy of the world. I could just do my job, go back home, and continue investing, making more money, and I didn't have to worry about all of this shit.
Same with me. I mean, and I've heard many people who would say they were literally called by the Holy Spirit. That's my story as well. I had a very successful business, incredibly successful speaking career. I'd already written a few books, happy partnership, lots of friends. And just every worldly thing was taken away to do this work, but I have no regrets. I wouldn't change my going back. I would do it all over again, because this is what's needed for this time. And now we're getting revelations about the fakeness around the New Age movement, with Deepak Chopra being listed in the Epstein files. I think there's some good is coming from that wake up call. That there's been all these false gods and lies. So getting back to the path of Jesus is a very simple path: loving and forgiving, service to others, loving our neighbor. It doesn't have to be complicated. I mean, if people can just love their neighbor despite their differences, heal their families, honor each other, get rid of pride. There's a reason why pride is used with the whole trans agenda, because it gets people stuck in their egos. You can't learn, heal, or grow unless you're humbled, in my opinion. And all the learning comes, the hard lessons, like you said, going back to the difference between, we're in this cycle where we got weak men. To make a strong man again and strong woman, you got to be humbled. And the weight of all of these crushing things happening humbles people. And then they can rebuild their spirit and their strength. So until we're in this humbled cycle again, I don't think we're going to make any breakthroughs.
And it's kind of interesting that you speak about pride, because you look at the Bible rainbow at 5 colors, is it? Hold on, I have it right here. Has 7 colors, and the Pride has 6. It's not a mistake that they use the rainbow, because if you know your Bible, the rainbow was shown to Noah to say that I will never flood the earth again. I will never do that again. And then you have
Perversion.
you have perversion that uses the same icon that God used, removes a color and calls it pride. One of the biggest sins that you can commit.
Exactly.
But people don't understand. It's like the woman that invented Margaret, the woman that invented abortion, that invented
Sanger,
shit. What's
Margaret
the
Sanger,
Margaret Sanger?
Planned Parenthood. Yes,
Yeah,
it's truly
she.
evil. Yeah.
But you can look and you will find quotes that she hated God. She
Oh,
was open about it, and she believed in eugenics.
oh,
And this
that's
is exactly what Planned Parenthood is. It's eugenics. Because if you look, the vast majority of people that get abortions are not white women.
no, it's exactly it, and they've done this to whole populations. I mean, you can read about the eugenicist movement, and Darwin. He was a eugenicist as well.
Yep.
They were all
Mhm.
controlled. They all had their controllers. This cabal, and they all wanted to get rid of a lot of people on Earth, and they've certainly done a lot towards that. And sadly, but even dumbing us down with the fluoride, making us easier to control. And you believe in the transhumanism agenda, you believe in mind control. There's evidence coming out about that. It seemed too crazy, too sci-fi, but controlling people's thoughts, feelings, like, so where is your humanity? Where is your connection to the God? They're totally disrupting it at every level. Calcifying our pineal gland and everything else that's been done. I mean, the awareness is coming out, though. That gives me a lot of hope. My deep connection and faith and connection to God, no matter what happens. But I see some of the things, particularly in the state, as a beacon of hope coming out, that are going against this pure evil and stopping it. I mean, Trump leaving the WHO. This terribly corrupt organization was a plus. We're still totally entrenched. I know that was on the PPC platform as well, but the Conservatives have no indication that they're going to take a stand on any of the issues. Not on the vaccine injured, not on COVID, not on the mandates, lockdowns, nothing. I mean, so I certainly don't think I could vote for them. But good political leadership does make a difference. Look at Bukele in El Salvador, what he's done. He's a Christian man, a strong leader, moral leader. He's brought back the rule of law. He's tackled the cartels. He's put them in prison, so people are no longer terrorized to walk on the streets. He's given so much to the communities and even education. I mean, that's a real living example of how a good moral Christian leader, maybe doesn't have to be Christian in a Muslim country, but an incredible leader, moral leader, can transform a country. I just don't see that happening in Canada for a long time. What about you?
I'm on the fence when it comes to Trump. I like Bukele, but I don't know the guy. I just like what he's done. There's a few things that he said when he had an interview with Tucker Carlson. There's a few things that he said that actually tears to my eyes. I'm like, damn, I like this guy, but for all I know, he's a great actor. I have a very big mistrust of politicians. I don't care who you are. I don't trust you. If you tell me you're a politician, I don't trust you. I just don't.
I think that's part of the psyop too, though. I think we have to be mindful of that, because when a good moral person steps up and they get shit on so much, because everybody is now, they've come to this point where they've mixed us all. Nobody trusts anybody. And the currency of the future, the most valuable currency, I believe, will be trust. And so as people wake up, we're going to go back to the people who stood up and lost everything. Those people, I think, would make the best leaders in the future.
And I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. What I'm disagreeing with is that the political system in which we are was designed in such a way that what we're seeing today. A lot of people are saying, oh, all we need is to replace the right people into the political system that we have today and it'll be better. No, our system is not flawed. It was designed this
of
way.
course, it was.
This is the thing. If you the people that are attracted to politics are sociopath by psychology. But if you look, they're narcissists and they're sociopath. They don't care about you and I. They really don't care.
I mean, I have to say, this is one of those like sort of like straw man. This is just like you can't cross the board say all doctors are psychopaths.
No,
because they were,
but
all politicians are. The thing is,
the vast majority of them are. And it's not a small percentage. The vast majority of people that are in politics right now, if you look at the, I can only talk about right now. Talking about the future is great, but at the same time, I don't see it in Canada. I don't see anybody on any spectrum that is going to be a great leader. That leader has not emerged yet.
Well, I've seen some really great people. They just don't get elected. That's the problem. The people who are
because it's part of the system.
Yeah,
they're not going to get elected either.
No, but they're at least creating the awareness on the ground. And I mean, some amazing people who sacrifice so much. I think politics can be a spiritual path, just like everything else in the future. Medicine right now, all of the doctors were realizing how corrupt they are. How they just like pill pushers and incentivized to like inject kids. I mean, it's in every single area. We're seeing the police officers, all of these police officers who are supposed to be upholding the law, getting charged now with sex trafficking, pedophilia, incredibly disturbing videos. It's not one sector. It's the level of corruption is across the board. Judicial corruption, education. I mean, you have sex offenders writing, sex ed for kids. I mean, the whole thing is just disgustingly corrupt, but that's not a reason to not do something. I think Agenda 2030 can be lifted when you bring things back locally to start. I mean, all of the municipals have been incorporated and captured by corporations. So this DEI crap we're being shoved, the whole climate fraud we're being shoved down our throat. And that's why taxes are going up. You can break with that locally and then, work towards provincially and federally. I mean, there has to be a way of breaking these evil bonds. People are seeing it now. Taxes are going up. The roads aren't getting fixed, but they have to contribute to these grotesque salaries. You look at the sunshine list, people at regional levels, for example, enforcing DI are making like $200K. I mean, this is where the real evil, where they're implementing it, is in the bureaucracy that stops people from living a healthy, happy life, in my opinion.
And this is where we're going to agree. I'm going to agree with you that the change needs to happen on a community level. It ain't going to happen on a provincial level. It's not going to happen on a federal level. It's really going to happen where individuals have the most impact, and that is in their community. That you and I will agree 1,000,000% there. This is where the real change can be done. And this is what's missing in Canada right now, because you're always looking to the federal, you're always looking to the provincial. But I got a buddy of mine years ago. He had been approached by the Conservative Party to represent them in an election, and he's like, I'm not interested. He didn't vote in the provincial elections. He did not vote in federal elections, but he voted on the municipal. He knew everybody on the school boards. He knew who the mayor was. He knew everybody in his office. He understood that those are the people that impact his life on a daily basis. It's not the federal, it's not the provincial, it's the people that run your community in which you live. This is where you see the most impact. And at the end of the day, if you look at a province, you look at a country, what are they? A bunch of communities that decided to live under the same rule. A community is no different, right? It's a small, it could be small, it could be big, but there are a bunch of people that decide to live under the same rule. And that's what we need to go back to. And that's what I'm trying to bring to work on. I'm working on something right now. That's the idea. Excellent. Is to try to bring people from around Canada in order to kind of take solutions and see how we can incorporate them in in
Yes.
communities on the
100.
municipal level, because I have no interest in politics. I have no interest to represent a province, to represent a
Mhm.
country. Either way, they would never allow somebody like me to be in politics no matter what. So I
Yeah.
will never play that game because the system's not meant for guys like me. And at the end of the day, I'm a big George Carlin fan, and it
Mhm.
always rings
Yeah.
true in
He's
my
good.
head that if voting mattered, they
Mhm.
wouldn't let us do it.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely in the past, and whether or not we're going to change that in the future, I guess remains to be certain. But so, just I know you have a hard stop in 3 minutes. What just to finish off, this is a great conversation. By the way, I am going to be running in the local elections this fall.
Good
I'm
for
going to
you.
throw my
Good for
hat in,
you.
whatever the outcome. Three federal elections and a lot of speaking of the topics that no one else did. People know me and respect me in my community. So even the ones who didn't agree, but give it a try. I mean, that's all you can do. Anyone who's thinking about it, just give it a try. If it doesn't work out, nothing lost. You're still able to voice your opinion. But what did you want to close on? What did you want to tell the audience, or what are you working on? Anything else we've missed that you wanted to talk about today? Just over to you for the last few minutes.
All I'm going to say in closing is that as much as the world looks very dim, it looks very evil, it looks very sad, my faith is in God. I understand that it's going to get worse before it gets better. And that's the only path through. There's nothing we can do about it except go through it and do our best to make it last to make sure that it's as short as possible. But it's gonna happen. But I'll do it with a smile. At the end of the day, there's so much beauty in the world if you just disconnect from your cell phone. I
Yeah.
lived during COVID. I was in Montreal, and as a sales engineer, I was always in front of customers day in, day out. I was doing customer calls. That's all I did. And when COVID hit, I had an investment house, like a log house in the middle of nowhere that I was rented on Airbnb. Got rid of my place in the city and I moved to the middle of the woods. And when I say the middle of the woods, I've seen my neighbor. I was seeing my neighbor more often at the grocery store that was 35 minutes away from the house than I did at his house.
Wow,
And
that's
we
nice.
weren't far
Yeah.
we weren't far from each other, but it was in the middle of nowhere in a private domain where there was just a bunch of people with small log house that lived there,
Hmm.
all escaping the city. It
Hmm.
wasn't it was all done on purpose, but I spent 3.5 years there, a year and a half. The first
Wow.
year and a half I was there by myself with two dogs, and then my now wife came to join me, and then we were there for, I think, hold on, 2.5 years, 3 years I was there, and then we left for the US. We traveled 30 states in about 3 years, 3.5 years in an RV.
Wow. Wow.
And this changed as much as the world seems very evil, seems very bad. There are so many good people
Yes,
out there. There's
I
still
agree.
so much worth fighting for
Hmm.
out there, because there's so at the end of the day, the left versus right is such a lie that when you sit
Yes.
down with someone you don't agree with, and I do it every day with a liberal, I don't agree with a lot of things that comes out of his mouth.
Hmm.
And you know what, at the end of the day, we're mostly agreeing on the problems, we don't agree on
Hmm.
the solution. And that's what we've forgotten, is that if we're able to have those hard conversations, we're able to sit down with someone that people want us to believe, the government want us to believe we disagree or
Hmm.
we hate each other, but you get to sit down, have a drink, smoke a cigar, do whatever it is that you
Hmm.
enjoy doing, but just have those hard conversations. Have a bit of that civil discourse where you're speaking with someone that you don't agree with. You're going to soon realize that you're not that different. At the end of the day, we humans don't want much. We want to have enough money to do stuff, to take care of our family, to have somewhat of a house, a car, a place that we can call home, and
Hmm.
enough money to travel, to do a few things. We're not very complicated at the
Yeah,
end of the day.
yeah,
A-
exactly.
And that is the conversations that we need to have. And this is what I'm trying to do every day, is just to be able to, yes, we talk about the hard stuff, but at the end of the day, if we don't, who will?
Hmm.
But the only reason I really talk about these things is because I want to show people that we're not that much different.
I love that. I feel very much the same. And well, listen, great to talk to you, and good luck with your upcoming. Nico is going to continue on with his podcast this evening if anyone wants to follow him. So have a great evening, and we'll chat again. Sign off.
Sounds good.
Bye
Bye.
now.